Hey, chicken side chatting. Gotta chat on the chickens. I want to talk about EVs in the Philippines. I previously talked about buying motorcycles and buying cars in the Philippines and how the price is inclusive of everything, unlike in the U.S. I don't know how other countries handle it, but I think the way the U.S. handles it is garbage. Unfortunately, that's just part of the history, and they can't change it. They tried with Saturn and a couple other brands, but the haggle is the killer for new cars in America. Here, you walk into a dealership, they hand you a sheet. It's got all their models and all their prices. It's super simple, and that's the out the door price, tax, tag, title. It usually comes with a tag for 3 years, and it comes with basic insurance typically. But that might be an upsell. Just depends on what car you're looking at, what manufacturer. They do it a little bit different. But I want to talk about EVs in the Philippines. You may think EVs are a bad idea in a country with brownouts and a bit of unstable electric supply at times, especially out in the provinces. But I'm going to be devil's advocate on that because I've owned EVs in the past. I had a used Leaf that I got for almost nothing and sold it for almost nothing. I had a plug-in hybrid Ford Fusion, which was freaking awesome. I missed that car. That car was badass. It only had 20-mile range, and the trunk was compromised because half of it was battery, but you could still fit a fair bit, and the seats went down, and you had like a gun slit that you could use for long things, which was better than nothing, but not much better than nothing. But the car itself drove like a damn dream. It was heavy enough with all that gear in it that it really soaked up the bumps nice, and it was a badass car. But it was a lease, and it was dirt cheap with the lease, so the residual price was ridiculous, and I wasn't paying that. So they got it back at the end of the lease, no questions asked. I took good care of it. It was fine. But here, I think EVs really would work, and here's why. They have quite a bit of pollution from vehicles already. They have a lot of noise from vehicles already. And they have reasonably priced fuel. Diesel's a little cheaper, as it should be. I don't know why the U.S. is more for diesel. It takes less energy to refine, but this place is normal. The diesel price is a little bit less than the gasoline price. But the electric can be pretty pricey. But even then, it's still cheaper than diesel or gasoline. But here, you're not driving fast. Most of the time, any of the driving that you're doing is on local roads, and it's slow. And an EV can do that all day, every day, for a week straight, even running the air conditioning at max capacity. It takes no electric power to run a EV at a slow speed. Even running climate control, and it's hot as crazy out. Doesn't matter. EV can do that all day. Stop and go traffic, no problem. You get stuck in gridlock, no problem. You're not going to run out of fuel unless you're low on juice, low on battery when you start. You're not going to run out of battery from sitting. That's just not going to happen. You think about the amount of kilowatt hours they have in those batteries, and you can run a house on that all day. Never mind run just a basic climate control for a car. So, anyways. I think that it's a valuable thing here, especially if you have a house with solar. It's a no-brainer. You're not driving far. You're not driving fast. Yeah, there's no plug-in charging stations, although they're working on that. But it's not charging stations are not really a thing if you're using it just for around town and taking short trips. I mean, you could take a long trip one way, plug it in at somebody's house, and be ready to go back the next day if you wanted to, if you spend the night or something. If you've got to take a long trip and you need to have a plug-in, okay, take a different car, rent a car, or do something. But I think that day-to-day driving, an EV is perfect for that. And they're affordable here. A BYD Sea Lion, I think, and there's another BYD that's one size above that. Both hatchbacks. One looks like a Lamborghini because it was designed by the Lamborghini guy. Not a Sea Lion. What am I talking about? Seagull. The BYD Seagull, the compact hatchback car. Looks like a Lamborghini. That thing is perfect for here. I think the only problem, and we've driven it. I drove it. I went and drove a new one. It's 880,000 pesos, so like $12,000. Don't quote me on that math, but 12-ish thousand, and you got a brand new car with a warranty, and it's electric. You're not going to pay for tires for a while. You're not going to pay for gas. You're not going to pay for repairs, and they have repair centers around the Philippines. So yes, it's an unknown Chinese brand, but they're selling those things worldwide. They got them in Australia. They got them, I think, in Europe. They got them everywhere but the U.S., pretty much. So I don't think it's too crappy of a car, but I don't know how parts are going to be, or what the long-term reliability is going to be for that. But it's a big brand in China, anyways, and it's coming around everywhere else. They've got another bunch of models too, but that one is the one that's interesting to me because it's cheap. So the only hang up with that car is the battery is cooled by the air conditioning compressor. So you might be, on a hot day, you might get less cool air inside the cabin because the priority obviously is going to be cooling the battery before cooling the humans. So that's an unknown. We drove the Seagull, and then we drove the Dolphin. That's the one that's one step higher than that. And when we first got in the Dolphin, the AC was not pumping out cold at all. And I think what was happening was it was being redirected to the battery. And so it took a few minutes before that thing started cranking cold. Now, maybe there was something wrong with the car, too. I don't know. It was brand new, but who knows? But between those two cars, the Seagull is actually peppier than the Dolphin. The Dolphin was kind of boring, but a little bit bigger, a little bit pricier. That's my thing. That's my take on it. I think that in my situation with solar, I would love to have an electric car, and the same goes for electric motorcycle. There's a NXT brand here, and there's a few other brands that sell here. NXT is a Filipino brand, and they're selling a motorcycle that can go 100 kilometers an hour for less than $2,000, and that's with lithium battery and everything. So you can't touch that in the U.S. So 100 kilometers an hour is 60 miles an hour ish, but I would buy that in a heartbeat. I don't have a need for it right now. I've resisted buying it up until this point. We've got two motorcycles and we barely ride them, so there's really no need for a third, but I'd love to have one. And if you're just riding around town, I'm not going to be riding that motorcycle cross country. And it's don't forget the Philippines is an island. You're not going to go that far. And if you are, it has a limited amount of interstates. So like a motorcycle, you can't ride that on the interstate anyways unless it's over 400 cc's. But an electric car, you can get on the interstate and you can ride to Manila and a couple other places. But other than that, you're riding on local roads. And the local roads, you're going slow. I don't care how far you got to go or where you're going. It's going to be stop and go, and you're not going to get up to much more than 60 kilometers an hour on local roads going between towns. That's just the way it is. And even then, the roads are super bumpy, and you never know what's around the next corner. Something, they could have a telephone pole in the middle of the road or whatever. That road work that's not properly signed. So you're not going fast around here, driving around, especially in an area that you're not familiar with. So all the more reason electric cars would work here, and they are working. They're selling them. So that's my take. The sky is falling, and we need to go EV. I don't care about that necessarily as much as getting a new cheap car that I don't have to put gas in, and I can fill it up for my solar. I think it's a no-brainer, especially if you have a second car for a trip or you have access to a good cheap rental. So don't rent from Avis. Rent from a local that you find on Facebook Marketplace or something. You could easily get a nice small rental car for 1,000 pesos a day or so. So there you go on that. I think EVs are the way to go. I got no hesitation whatsoever, other than unknown parts. And there's a lot of Chinese brands, so you never know which one's going to have the nicest price or if you're going to get support or any of that stuff. So you just got to watch it with that. There's a couple different brands that sell around that 800,000 peso mark. So I wouldn't hesitate for BYD. Maybe. It's still unknown reliability. So there's that. I wish that their battery was climate controlled with something other than the air conditioning for the car, because I'm the priority when I'm in the car. God dang it. I don't want to have to fight over the battery for getting cool air. But that's something that'll come around eventually, I think. They'll figure out what they can do with that, and maybe a better way. I don't know. But yeah. Get you a Toyota, but that's the default answer for pretty much everything. But these electric cars are coming in. I mean, they got some electronics on them and some other stuff that could break, but pretty much it's possible that they're more reliable than a normal car. It's possible. That depends on a lot of factors, but it's a lot less complexity for an electric car than for a gasoline car. So, anyways, that's what I think. Charging network or not, I think it makes a lot of sense here. See you.